Hi scholars, Miss Dodd here, and I have another video. Today is Domain 10, Lesson 7. Will this war never end? Before we get started though, I need to give a shout out again to Rich Love in the Toledo classroom. Once again, she called me and told me 3 things that she learned from a video. So again, let me give that shout out to Rich Love. If you would like me to shout out your name and be part of the Shout Out 2020 challenge, then go ahead and text me or call me anything that you have learned from our videos. So you could get a shout out. So far, Toledo Classroom is winning thanks to Rich Love. All right, now before we get started, we need to talk about yesterday. So yesterday we discussed our read aloud and we had to do 3 scenes from our story for our exit ticket. So it should be, I'm sorry, my paper is a little crumpled. My thoughts from the read aloud, you had the 3 boxer and you had to do a picture and then write 3 sentences. Yesterday we discussed the war. We talked about how the British had more men, more ammunition. They were better prepared. We talked about how the colonists were not ready. We just had regular everyday men fighting, and we needed to get help from France. And France didn't believe that we would actually win against the great and powerful British Army until we were able to win a few battles, and then they said, well, I guess you can do this after all, and they decided to help us. Then we also discussed George Washington crossing the Delaware on Christmas night. Remember that picture of him in that boat? And he did a surprise attack on the British, and then we were able to win that battle. All right, our story today is, again, will this war never end? So we're going to find out more about the war, and then we'll have a really fun activity to do at the end of this video. So first, though, let's do our vocabulary. All right, our first word is this word, and it is the word confident. Confident means that you're certain or you are sure of something. So if you are feeling very confident, you know that you can do whatever it is that you are trying to do. You're not nervous about it. You're not worried about it. You just know that you can do it. Next word is surrendering. Surrendering means declaring yourself the loser and ending a conflict. So we talked about in our story yesterday how some of the British men came out of their tents because it was winter and it was nighttime and it was Christmas. So they didn't expect that this was going to be happening when Washington and his men invaded their camp. So we said that they came out of their tents with their hands up. So they were surrendering. They are ending the conflict. They're basically saying, you win, I surrender. I know that I will not be able to win this, so I'm letting you win. I'm ending this conflict or this fight. All right, and then we have the word wilderness. And wilderness is an area of land where very few people live. Usually it is a forest, wild animals are there, and it's just not a very populated place. It hasn't been settled yet. It is the wilderness. Okay, we're now going to get started with that read aloud. Okay, again, the story is, will this war never end? First, let's go and look, though, at our picture again of colonial America. Let me push back a little bit, maybe, so we can see it. Okay, again, all of the green is the land that has not been settled yet. And right here, all of this orangey red color are all of our colonial settlements, so all of the colonies. Again, we have Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and we have Georgia. Again, all of this land has not been settled yet. All right, so By the spring of 1778, General Washington and his Continental Army at Valley Forge were in much better spirits. Soldiers and supplies had arrived from France, and the army was better prepared, and the bitterly cold weather was behind them. They were ready to take on the British once more. Fighting continued all across the colonies, on land and on sea, and into the wilderness west of the Mississippi River. So remember again, wilderness is that area of land that has not been settled yet. It's just trees and wild animals. Will this war never end? People wondered. Is it worth the loss of so many lives? The war was shifting south now, and the British, under the command of General Cornwallis, felt confident that they could defeat the colonial militia at long last. Okay, so the British commander, he is General Cornwallis. Our commander is George Washington. Indeed, the British won quite a few battles in the South. Little did they know that their successes were about to end. Oh, it's getting exciting. I wonder what's going to happen. Okay. In 1781, 6 long years after that first shot of the war was fired in Lexington, you need a refresher, see the video Shot Heard Around the World. In Massachusetts, things began to look promising for the Continental Army. George Washington received news that the 28 French ships were on their way to the coast of Yorktown, Virginia, where General Cornwallis and the Redcoats were camped. So remember, we needed help and supplies from the French. So the French are now getting ready to send us supplies because their 28 ships are now getting ready to go to the coast of Yorktown, Virginia, where General Cornwallis and his British Redcoat Army are camped. So all of our supplies are going to be there where they are camped. So think about how that's going to help us. He was very excited. George Washington came up with a plan to trap the British. General Washington's troops, now camped in New York, marched all day through the night to Yorktown, Virginia. And let me show you what that would look like on our map. So really quickly, we have another version of this map. So right here, they were camped in New York, which is right here. And they marched all day to get all the way down to Virginia. So they had to go through all of these states. And let me show you a close-up of this, okay? Right here on the coast, right here of Virginia. So they were here, New York, and they marched all day to get all the way down to this coast of Virginia. So they had to march all through the night to even be able to make it. Okay. So Yorktown, Virginia was a town built on the banks of the York River, and it was just a little inland from the Atlantic Ocean. While Washington moved his troops over land, the French ships moved by sea. So Washington is coming down this way to get to Yorktown, and then the French ships are coming this way in the water, so they're going to meet together. The British couldn't escape by land because the Continental Army was blocking them. Remember, they're marching, so they're right here. And they couldn't escape by sea because the French ships were blocking them there. So they have nowhere to go. George Washington and his forces had the British blocked on both sides. British drummer boys waved a white flag to show that they were surrendering, and bands are rumored to have played a tune called "The World Turned Upside Down." So again, surrendering means that they're saying, we know that we cannot win this. You've bested us. You've won. Okay. It must surely have seemed like an upside-down world to the British, who were used to winning wars and ruling colonies. Now they had lost a war. They were no longer able to rule over the American colonies. The British Army was captured at Yorktown, and all of the fighting in the colonies soon ended. The British sailed home, and George Washington stepped down as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. And let's check out that picture of the surrender at Yorktown. Okay. It took it took 2 years of meeting in Paris, France, to plan for peace. In 1783, Benjamin Franklin was there to sign the peace agreement that gave the American colonies their independence. Remember Benjamin Franklin? He was the diplomat who went to Britain to speak at Parliament about the unfair taxation. He went to France to speak on our behalf. And so now he's in Paris again to help with the peace treaty. They were finally free of British rule. They could no longer have to pay taxes to the British king. Their new nation reached from Canada in the north to Florida in the south, to the Mississippi River in the west. And let's take a look at all of that land. Let's look back at our flip chart, and we'll look at our map again. Well, in just a moment, we will be doing that. All right, here we go. So it stretched all the way up to Canada's in the north. So it looks like this is just ocean, but we know North America has Canada. And then all the way down here, Florida in the south. But we know that Mexico is down here too. So it's not just ocean. We're not an island. Okay. So this is how big the new territory was. So first we just had these 13 colonies, but because we won that war, we were able to have all of that land. We said this will be all of our new country. Okay, some suggested that George Washington be made a king because remember, he helped us win that war that allowed us to have our freedom from British rule. And so then we were able to be our own country. King, he scoffed. We have been fighting to rid ourselves of a king. Our new government must be one where the people rule. So he said, no, I'm not going to be a king. We had a king. The king is one person who's in charge of everyone, who makes all of these rules. We didn't like how that went, so I will not be a king. I'm not going to do that to our new country. But how? So he wants it to be a country where the people rule, but how can that happen? Let's find out. George Washington, exhausted, so very tired, by 6 years of a battle, wanted to only go back home to his family. He moved to Mount Vernon, which was his home on the Potomac River in Virginia. He dreamed of being able to ride peacefully about his farm, listening to birdsong instead of shouting orders to his men. Washington's wife, Martha, had been a great help to him during the war, bringing food and clothing to his troops during their long, hard winters, and even camping out with them in their field. She, too, looked forward to spending some time with her husband in the comforts of Mount Vernon. But as George Washington was not able to relax on his farm for too long, and you will soon find out. Let's take a quick look at a picture of Mount Vernon. George Washington's house. That is in Mount Vernon on the Potomac River in Virginia. Alrighty, that is all for today. We'll have to find out tomorrow why he wasn't able to relax very long. Let's go ahead and do comprehension questions. Okay, number 1. How did General Washington win the war? Okay, number 2. With the war over, it meant the colonists would no longer be ruled by the British king. Who was going to be their new king then? Number 3. Who was Martha Washington? Number 4. Did George Washington remain the commander-in-chief after the war ended? And number 5. In the beginning of the read aloud, you heard that some people questioned whether or not the war was worthwhile. How do you think they felt at the end of the war? So how do you think their feelings changed? Do you think that they did change? Do you think that they stayed the same? Okay, we now have a song, and it is called Yankee Doodle. I will quickly sing it for you, but then I'm also going to send a link to a professionally done version. So hopefully you can listen to my version, and then I'll send you a real version of it. But our song, Yankee Doodle, I just want to sing this with you because you know if we were in class, we would be singing this all together. All right, first it goes like this. Yankee Doodle went to town a-riding on a pony, stuck a feather in his cap and called it macaroni. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy, mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. Father and I went down to camp along with Captain Gooding, and there we saw the men and boys as thick as hasty pudding. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy, mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. There was General Washington upon a slapping stallion, a-giving orders to his men. I guess there was a million. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy, mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. All right, scholars, that's all I have for you today. Don't forget, shout out challenge, call or text me. You can have a shout out.